Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk to you guys about my top 10 characters that should be great. Now, I want to make this list for a couple of reasons. For one, I've already touched on this a little bit with how to make Thor great, how to make Black Panther great, and how to make Hulk great. And I loved the response that I got from you guys on those videos. Additionally, I love the response that I've gotten and that we've gotten from Netmarble. They actually made Black Panther great. He's actually a decent combat hero now. It's actually not embarrassing to tell people, yes, my first 6-star ticket was used on Black Panther. Yes, I have the King of Wakanda tier 2. It's not embarrassing anymore to be like, yeah, Black Bolt's my favorite character and he kicks ass, because hell yeah, he kind of does kick ass. But there are still a lot of characters languishing in the depths and recesses of the reject category, and I want to kind of jumble them together and bunch them up just to get a nice shotgun spray to anybody who might be watching, hoping to hear something about their favorite underused and underwhelming character, and also to give people a lot more ideas right off the bat. So I'm going to be focusing less on the individual nitty-gritty about the characters, but I want to instead rapid fire through my top 10 for characters that should be good but aren't, with a particular focus on characters that should be good given their power level in the comics. Now, I do want to say, I know that power level in comics has almost zero reflection in the game. I mean, there are some characters who are accurately reflected, but there are a lot of characters who are a lot stronger than they are in the games, like in the game than in the comic, or, you know, they're way stronger in the comic than in the game, or whatever. And so I wanted to kind of focus a little bit on that, but also make note that I know that that's not actually an accurate reflection of the game, just that I feel we should get some better representation given the changes recently made with Black Bolt and Black Panther. So with hope, guys, with some optimism for Netmarble and the future of all of these, you know, horrible characters with rich and storied comic book pasts, let's jump in. At number 1, of course, Hulk. Hulk is probably the last of the big three that really need a reworking, that really need a retooling. I covered most of it in the how to make Hulk great video, so check that out if you haven't yet. But Hulk is still, and right now, probably the best target for a rework, like Black Panther, like Black Bolt, like Captain Marvel, like Angela, like so many characters as of late. I do have actually a lot of hope for Netmarble to fix Hulk just because of what they've been doing recently with other characters, Black Panther especially. The fact that they changed so many of Black Panther's skills, they changed his tier 2 ability, they changed his passive, they changed his leadership. I mean, how epic would it be if Hulk was the first and only combat character and the only character period to have a physical attack leadership higher than 30%, to actually break that threshold to maybe 40% or 50%. That would be insane. What if his leadership made his physical attack like percentage scale with how much damage he took, so you could get him down to low health, switch to another hero, and do massive physical damage? Just a thought, but for a lot of the reasons and for how amazing Hulk is in the comics, he deserves a rework badly. He's at the top of everyone's list right now. Number 2 on the list, and in much the same way as Hulk, this character has a long historied past. They've given birth to some of the best characters in this game, so they deserve a rebirth themselves. Steve Rogers, Captain America. Oh man, the stars and stripes, you know, the man with the plan, the leader that we all need. All right, the backbone of the Avengers. Fucking Chris, what's his name? The guy. What's his name? Not Chris Pine. Chris Evans. Fucking Chris Evans, all right? Captain America needs a rework badly. He is one of the holdovers from the original Tier 2s when the Tier 2 was first envisioned and first presented to us. At the time, his Tier 2 was not bad, particularly for the skill bump in terms of the percentages and the numbers that got raised. But now, Captain America has one of the worst, if not the worst, Tier 2. I mean, his Tier 2 passive is similar to some characters' 4-star passives. Think about how bad that is. And Captain America is one of the most, if not the most iconic character in the Marvel Universe, so he needs a rework like a fat kid needs cake. It's straight out of an early 2000s 50 Cent song. It's everything that needs to be done to rework bad characters. and Captain America needs it bad. Similar to Captain America, number 3 on the list, the guy fighting him in Civil War, Iron Man. Number 3 on this list, for many of the same reasons that I mentioned about Captain America. Iron Man is just not very good anymore, considering the level and the power creep that's happened with tier 2s and new characters, Sharon Rogers, Doctor Strange, Thanos, Odin, you name it. There are a lot of tier 2s better than Iron Man, and that's not to say that he has to be the best, but I just think that his kit and his character could be a little bit more representative of the character's power level in the comics. I mean, he's one of the founding members of the Avengers. He's in the Illuminati. He's got, you know, so much going for him, and his leadership is basically useless nowadays, especially with how powerful cards are. He's got a terrible passive. Only one of his skills has an iframe, and that's with a uniform, so he's super gimped out unless you invest heavily in him. And I know that his damage is good, but that's basically all he's got. He's the clearest definition of a glass cannon, and I think he needs just a little bit of a bump to bring him more in line with his comic book counterpart. Number 4 on the list, our first villain, if you don't count World War Hulk, Ultron. Now, I pick Ultron because he's such an iconic villain, especially with how the MCU and the movies are pushing him, or pushed him, I guess, in the last iteration before the Civil War stuff. Ultron is a fan favorite among people who like villains, and Ultron just has so much going for him with the different uniforms and just how you can represent him stylistically in so many different ways that I think Netmarble needs to take a look at him and try to find some different ways to make him interesting and make him creative. I mean, just for starters, and I'm just, you know, spitballing here, if they were to get the uniforms or get rid of the uniforms, how cool would it be if Ultron had a version of Groot and Corvus's passive where they regenerate? But basically, Ultron starts off with this uniform, and then once you kill him, he gets slightly stronger and slightly more health and whatever, and he turns into this one, and then you kill him again, and he revives again in his final form, because Ultron in the comics was known to constantly reinvent himself and constantly rebuild himself with better materials, new vibranium, etc. And if they could somehow manifest that in this game, and we already have characters who revive, like Groot and Corvus, like I mentioned, that would be so epic, and that would just make the character so relevant and so reflective of their power level and of their stature in the comic book universe. Number 5 on the list, one of the characters that I originally invested heavily in when I first started playing this game, Vision. I don't even wear his uniform anymore, but I think Vision really needs a rework, despite the fact that he wasn't one of the original tier 2s. He got his tier 2 not that long ago, but it really didn't do anything for the character. The tier 2 came, the tier 2 went, no videos popped up of Vision doing anything, and he's still a very underwhelming character, despite the fact that his animations look very cool and the character is very iconic and very easy to spot. No one's gonna confuse this character for anyone else. This is Vision. Vision has a fucking mind gem in his forehead, or maybe it's the soul gem, I can't remember. Vision is, a fantastic character in the comics. He was done very well by Paul Bettany in the Ultron movie, and I just feel like he needs something a little bit more impressive to reflect that fact. Next up on the list, at number 6, the destroyer of Thanos himself, Drax. For those of you guys that don't know, the history behind Drax is that he was created to kill Thanos. You would think the guy who created to kill Thanos would not be, as terrible as this. This guy would probably die to a 4 or a 3-star Thanos, even maxed out, even with his tier 2. His tier 2 is bad. His leadership is actually one of the worst in the game, bar none. It's right up there with Nebula's leadership. It's so bad. Everything is bad. I guess that's okay, but overall the character plays really badly. He's just a meat shield, and not even a good meat shield at that. You have to skill cancel to get anywhere with him. His damage is horrible, and he just doesn't live up to that destroyer name. He's Drax the Destroyer. So if you're going to destroy things, you should start by not getting destroyed yourself by the people who put you in this game. And I think that that's something they really need to do. Also, why did they give him this uniform? He has a much better one from the Infinity Gauntlet series. If you haven't checked those out, you probably should. And hopefully Netmarble will look into fixing Drax, maybe by the time we get the Infinity Wars movie, but maybe hopefully before that. Number 7 on the list, Punisher. Now, Punisher is not necessarily a bad character. Punisher is just character that you can't find any room for. Punisher has pretty good damage. His skills look flashy and they're pretty cool. He's got 2 separate uniforms. You know, I think they've given a lot of love to him in some way, but he just isn't up to par with the character that we know and love in the comics and in the Netflix series. I mean, alongside Daredevil, Punisher just takes so much punishment and he keeps on going. He is an absolute monster. But this Punisher is a wet towel. He's terrible. He crumbles faster than a Trump Tower built in, Nicaragua. It's just the worst shit ever. And his leadership is basically his only saving grace. You can slot him in and give other characters a boost, but Punisher has basically no iframes, no heals, no CC that works on relevant boss modes. So he basically does nothing. You can tag him in for 1 attack and that's it. And if you do for any longer, he's going to take a ton of punishment and then be a liability for the rest of the fight. For those reasons, and for the fact that Punisher is such an iconic kind of anti-hero in the Marvel Universe, I feel like he needs more. Number 7 on this list, I was a little bit iffy about this one at first, but I'm pretty confident with it now. Hawkeye. And again, Hawkeye suffers from a lot of the same problems that I mentioned with Captain America and Iron Man, and also Hulk to a lesser extent. But he's one of the Avengers. He's so iconic. He's mentioned in all the comic books, and he's mentioned in all the movies. Now, I know Hawkeye is kind of like maybe the lame-o of the group. He's kind of the B-star out of all of them. He's kind of like Falcon, but even Falcon in this game is better than Hawkeye. Now, I know some people have gotten some crazy things to happen with his tier 2. I know that there are some videos out there of Hawkeye dealing respectable damage with his tier 2, but I feel like that requires such a high level of technical play and a lot of luck with timing and stuff like that, that it really just it isn't really fair to the character. And I feel like the character is underwhelming for the fact that he's such a heavy hitter, and he just needs, that's a terrible leadership. So I think he needs a rework. He probably needs that purple uniform. We still don't have it. I know a lot of people want it. So for those reasons, I do think that Hawkeye needs to be made great. Number 9 on the list, the worst enemy of Captain Rogers, the head of Hydra, Red Skull. Now, for those reasons that I just mentioned, Red Skull needs to be made better. Even with his tier 2, which is horrible, even with his uniform, which somehow made him worse because of the typing change to speed, Red Skull is just, a bottom tier character. You can use his Legion as a distraction, but all of his other skills deal such pathetic damage that he's only usable on a low-level Shadowland stage. He can't stun world bosses, he can't even aggro them long enough because his clones die in 5 seconds because he's speed type, so all of his stats are low as hell. His leadership is useless, basically. His passive is useless, and despite the fact that he's Captain America's arch nemesis, despite the fact that he's the head of Hydra, or he's like the spiritual, whatever guru for Hydra, he's their face, he's the face of Hydra, he's horrible in this game. It's kind of suffering from the same syndrome that Ultron suffers from, where there are lesser known villains, or villains that are smaller in the Marvel universe, like for example Yellow Jacket, but Yellow Jacket is 1,000 times better than Red Skull or Ultron in this game. For those reasons, I think that Red Skull does need a bump, does need a little bit of a rework, just to bring him more in line with what we expect of him. Number 10 on the list, I tried to go for something controversial, and I know this one is going to spark some hate in the comments, so I'm pretty excited for that one, but I'm ready to defend myself. Hyperion. And the reason why I pick Hyperion for number 10 on characters that need to be made great is because Hyperion's really not that great. Hyperion is like a very, very poor redhead version of Proxima. He basically has one skill that does a lot of damage, and then all of his other skills kind of suck. Now, Proxima doesn't suffer from that anymore because of her tier 2 passive that gives her lots of stuns and CC on her skills, but Hyperion basically has 3 skills. He's got Sun God, which heals him. He's got Atomic Vision, which does all of the damage, but is easily guard broken and interruptible. And he's got Solar Flare, which is a partial iframe that can still get him killed, especially if you time it improperly and he goes to punch the boss when the boss is doing a short range, massive AoE burst attack. So Hyperion's kit is super clunky. It's not easy to use. It's difficult to time. It's slow, and the damage output is not even that good to justify all of these problems I've already mentioned. Thank you for the Dimension Rift. But that doesn't even hit the hardest nerve. The hardest nerve, I would say, is the fact that Hyperion is an unfarmable character. He's a paywall character. He's in the conversation. He's in the group with Carnage, Enchantress, and those characters are way better than Hyperion. Like, it's not even close. It's night and day between Hyperion and Carnage. That video that I did way back comparing the two, I laugh at my comparison now because it's not even close. Okay, Enchantress and Hyperion. Enchantress is brand new and she's already way better than Hyperion. And for the fact that he's, basically Marvel's version of Superman, for the fact that he's a paywall character in this game and he's incredibly difficult to get, and for the fact that he's Hyperion, he definitely needs some kind of rework, and he definitely needs to be shown a little bit more love. Just because right now he's kind of mediocre. Even with his tier 2, I strongly, discourage people from getting him tier 2. So I feel like he needs a little bit of a rework and a little bit of a closer matching to his comic book counterpart. I want to give an honorable mention to both War Machine and Venom. I want to do that just because these are two characters who are very iconic in the Marvel Universe. They're iconic heroes or iconic villains, and they're closely tied to some of the most beloved characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. Venom, not so much, because Tobey Maguire is Tobey Maguire, and Topher Grace is Topher Grace. But War Machine, we've loved him in all of the Iron Man movies and in the Civil War movie, and I'm sure many people are hoping that Venom will come back to the big screen eventually, because he's one of the most interesting and deep and layered and complex villains that Spider-Man has ever faced. And Spider-Man has an excellent rogues gallery. So because of that, and because Spider-Man has other villains in this game that are actually very good, like Green Goblin, Venom needs to be better. And because he's Tony Stark's bro, although he doesn't have a beard, War Machine needs to be better too. So that's my list for the top 10 with 2 honorable mentions of characters that should be better, with a heavy emphasis on where they stand in the comic book and Marvel universe, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are, how you feel. Tell me how that ass tastes. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.